Welcome to my bedroom. This is my first video I'm giving a try. And I'm going to read to you from the Ramlings magazine book that I published back in 2001. I'm going to read the first article and see how you like it. It's called Chuck's World, and it's an article that I wrote. So here we go. I try to live in Chuck's world. It's very demanding, but the more I'm there, the happier a man I am. Because of this, I will be continuing this piece in all future issues of this magazine. The following two events in my life are the foundation of Chuck's world. For me, they provide the basis of all the answers. First event is short but simple. It occurred while I was in grade school. I grew up in a city primarily made up of Italians and Irish. There was, however, one Chinese girl in my first grade class. Her name was Jean Fong. She was in my same class from first grade through ninth. The only thing I remember about her is that she was very quiet, and I perceived her to be intelligent. As the years went by, she became more outgoing and seemed more comfortable with the rest of us. I don't remember anyone ever saying or making anything at all of the fact that she was the only Oriental in the whole school. She was just there, another kid. I don't remember exactly what grade we were in when she said this to me. Sixth, I would guess. But I remember thinking it to be Oriental wisdom. It had stayed with me and affected my thinking on just about every subject ever since. I remember we were sitting alone and talking about some current event about which many were divided in what they believed. She said, "In my family, we are told there are three sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth." Ever since that moment, I have always tried not to ever see only one side of anything, but to always search for that truth. The second event occurred a few years later and didn't involve a conversation with someone else, but one with myself. Sometimes things just dawn on you. People tell you over and over about something and you don't really even listen, or you just don't get it at all, or you kind of get it but you're not ready, you're not really interested. Then, out of the blue, something happens that shakes you out of your own little world and makes you understand on a whole new level. It is the level people have been telling you about. You had to reach it on your own. It changes your thinking for the rest of your life. Such a thing happened to me while I was in college. I got a job working as a nurse's aide at a nursing home. I was the only male there, and the nurses were glad to have a male who could do some of the heavier work they struggled with. The elderly men living there were also happy to have a male there. Some of them could not wash or dress themselves. They were brought up at a time when modesty was an important thing, and it embarrassed them to have female nurses dressing and bathing them. They mostly were able to wash themselves, but were uncomfortable being naked in front of the ladies. Having a male aide help them was clearly more acceptable to them. One man in particular was very cranky and unhappy most of the time when I first started working. It was probably a combination of things. Since having had a stroke, he was partially paralyzed. He had lost the use of his left arm and hand and could not move his legs. He was a proud man, however, and liked to be dressed every day and look nice. Early on, every day when I was helping him get dressed, he was very nasty to me. I suspected his crankiness came from being unable to do for himself. I have always been an upbeat kind of guy and have always tried to like people, even cranky ones. So I ignored his crankiness and treated him like a buddy in a bad mood. I dressed him and talked to him about myself and listened to his complaints. After a while, his complaints were more apologies for my having to help him. He seemed to enjoy my being there and looked forward to seeing me each day. We got along pretty well. One day I came to work and was told he had passed away early in the morning. I felt sad because he seemed to be a lot happier than when I first met him. I asked where he was and was told the other residents had been moved out of the room and he was in there on a gurney under a sheet waiting for the funeral home people to come get me. I was 20 at the time, and all my life I had never been to a funeral. I have never wanted to go, and my parents had never made me. So I had never seen a deceased person. For some reason, I wanted to see this man. They said I could. I went into the room and removed the sheet from his head and shoulders and just stood there looking at him for a few minutes. He looked the same as he had the day before. Other than the fact he was not breathing, I realized he was just exactly the same physically as yesterday. His body was here, his brain was still here, his heart was still here, it just wasn't pumping. All his other organs were still here. So what was missing today that was here yesterday? Whatever it was that was missing was the part of him that made him who he was. That was the part of him that I had been having conversations with each day. That was the part of him that had all the experiences he had told me about. This body in front of me was merely the other part's way of getting around for a while. You can call it spirit, the soul, the chi, the life force, entity, whatever you want. But right then I realized some things about the person who had previously been in this body in front of me. He taught me that until you get to know that part of each person that goes away when they die, you know nothing about them. He started out being nasty to me. I got to know him, and he got to know me. We learned to like each other. I realized other things about this man's missing spirit. It had no color. Any religious beliefs it had were merely what it chose to believe. I could never be prejudiced for or against another human being ever again. There are good people and bad people. There are good deeds and bad deeds. If a person does a good deed, the nationality, race, religion, or whatever other group that person may belong to is not relevant. Only the good deed is relevant. Likewise, if a person does a bad deed, their nationality, race, religion, or whatever other group that person belongs to is also not relevant. Only the bad deed is relevant. It was their own personal choice. Having come to this new level of personal understanding as I chose to believe it was, a lot of other correlated topics flooded in. I realized that even though I now understood and could never be prejudiced again, that didn't mean everybody else automatically understood as well. I realized I would never be able to make other people see what I now saw. It would have to dawn on them in their own time, as it had me. All I could do was live my own life in a way that I could be proud of when I was old and unable to do for myself. A life I could look back at and say to myself, overall, I was a good guy. And I'd like to let you know that I've had a stroke 3 or 4 years ago, and these emotional outbreaks are something I can't control. They just happen because of the stroke. But I'm not necessarily sad. Okay, as I said, the above stories are the basis for Chuck's World. They answer for me the vast majority of the questions that plague many people in the world today. As I explain this in future issues of Ramlings magazine, it may answer many questions for you as well. If it does, you may want to try to live in Chuck's world. If enough people decide to try, a lot of things may change for the better. Because of this magazine, if because of this magazine things in this world do begin to change for the better, it won't matter to me if no one ever decides to subscribe. And then after that, I wrote a short poem. By my actions will my children learn, not who they are, nor who they should be, but ultimately who I am. Well, that's the first article in the first Ramblings magazine, and I hope you liked it. I hope you come back for some more. If you liked it, please subscribe to this page and click on like and make any comments you'd like to make. Uh, I don't have the best studio in the world. We're in my bedroom, but that's the best I got for right now, and we'll explain more later in future posts. So thank you for reading this or for listening to this, and I hope you choose to come back here and in a day or two, and see what the next post is going to be. Thanks again.